You said earlier, with respect to like the dancing thing,
yes,
you said it would be a boundary of yours to not let your partner or wife dance with another man.
Correct.
Is that really a boundary, or isn't that more of an agreement? I feel like a boundary is something that you say that I'm going to do or abstain, but I don't know that a boundary can really like include. I don't really think of them that way. I think a boundary is things that like I would independently decide I don't want to do or I do want to engage in.
What's a bad idea to give you that Game Boy?
You gave it to me. You told me.
Focus
on the conversation.
Steven.
Yeah, I know. You fucked me. You lied to me.
I'm sorry. I misled.
There's a boundary. They're talking about the difference between a boundary and an agreement and a contract. Continue.
I just know when you do your streams, like you're playing Factorio and shit.
Come back to the hello.
Okay.
Don't let her dodge the virgin question.
Okay. No, I actually want to interject. It's so funny.
No,
let me interject.
Let her go.
Let me clarify her boundaries.
Wait. I just want to say something. Earlier, you guys were talking about traditional relationships.
What?
I was raised in a Hispanic traditional Catholic family household. The idea that dancing ballroom or dancing in general is non-traditional to me is insane, because like all of South America, Central America, Spain, you know, they dance salsa, they dance merengue. That is part of the culture, and a lot of people there are very traditional, very Hispanic Catholic.
Well,
so to me, there is a discrepancy there.
The issue is not with the actual dancing. The issue is with dancing with someone who's not your partner.
That's
what they do.
That's
white. Is that what they do?
Yeah, they do that in the culture.
It's literally just part of the culture.
Is it?
Yeah.
Not part of my culture.
Is that part of the culture?
I was literally born and
Not
raised
part of
in
my
that culture.
When it comes to the reaction to that video that I brought up, it was because of the context around it. If it were just two random people, I don't think that.
Should we watch the video?
Hold on. No. To be clear, the reaction.
You
can watch it if you want, but the reaction is.
So that people know what we're talking about.
If you're okay.
If you're okay. You can watch it all you want. I'll jerk off to it for you if you want after the show. Okay.
Can we record it? I have an OnlyFans.
Just do it under the table.
Yeah, as long as you pay me for it. Okay.
50-50.
Hold on. The issue is not the reaction to the video, or even the context around it. The issue is that right now, everybody in like the red pill like culture that's like taken over like online shit is like obsessed with like cuck and everything related to it, so much that I think it's actually a hidden fantasy for a lot of the people that talk about it, where like if a guy is talking to somebody else or a girl is talking to somebody else, like cuck, like people talk about it incessantly. It's like fucking insane, more so than it would have been like even 5 or 10 years ago.
You think it's like projection?
It's some kind of weird obsession with like being cucked or cucked, like to the point where on some of these shows, I don't think I've heard it here, but people will say things like, if your girlfriend has like a high body count, you start dating her, you got cucked. Or like if your girlfriend is like talking to another guy in a way that's getting cucked. It reminds me of like the old 4chan copy pasta, where it's like the ultimate cuck is a father that raises a daughter because he's preparing his daughter's to get plowed by some other guy.
Whoa,
and that's like the ultimate cuck. Like I'm just saying that like the obsession with like the cuck shit is like insane. I don't think it has anything to do with me or the dancing, because like she said, in a lot of traditional cultures, a lot of people dance. And if you do like ballroom dance or competition, you're not only competing with a boyfriend, right? You're like dancing with like partners and other people that have been practicing with you and everything. So I just think the obsession has to do with like the current culture around like the whole cuck and like dating
there's
shit.
An obsession. I think that cuckoldry and other weird fetishes are being pushed in both and pop culture, and people are just responding to that.
Absolutely
because they don't
not.
like it.
Cuckoldry as an actual fetish is really rare.
I think that people recognize degeneracy and they naturally say something
there you
towards
go.
it.
So it's it's like this weird like degenerate angle, and then like the red pill stuff and kind of the tradcon stuff and the fighting against like the perceived wokeism stuff.
There's a right way to express sexuality and a wrong way, and I guess you're saying there's not a right or wrong.
I never said that at all. There's plenty like.
Well, you put degeneracy and weird in air quotes.
Well, because
is there
she said
anything
degenerate.
that you would consider sexually degenerate?
Yeah, but he said we weren't allowed to talk about some of that.
So those subjects, would you say
enough.
those are the only things that
Stay tuned for Rumble.
You're allowed to partake in it?
In broad speaking terms, as long as people are exercising or practicing some sexual thing that's between them and it's not hurting anybody else, in general, I think it's probably okay for people to do that. If you want to have like a pure monogamous relationship, if you want to be abstinent until you get married or whatever, and that's how you want to explore, I think that's totally fine. But it seems like people from some backgrounds find that they can be incredibly judgmental of other people's like sexual exploration, which is really weird to me because they'll get like really fixated on it. Well, like I've never had a conversation before where I'm like, what's it like to like only have your husband or boyfriend's like going in and out of your pussy? Like these like really explicit conversations. But then people come to me and it's like, what do you think about like your wife like f***ing other guys and shit? And it's like, it's really weird that I'll get like really, or like even earlier, he's like, so you're bisexual. I think you asked me, right? Do you fuck guys in the ass? Do you take in your ass? So I'm like, Jesus, that's a really thing you asked if I was a top or bottom, right? That's essentially what you're asking, right? Which is fine. I don't care. Like, the explicit questions are fun, and I'm used to dealing with it. But it's interesting to me that based on my lifestyle, I'll get like these really explicit questions. And I feel like if you're in a more traditional relationship, if somebody asked you that, you'd be like, whoa, that's like way over the line. Which I think is just an interesting observation.
There's probably questions that we could ask to monogamous people, right?
Yeah,
you were very offended by that, I guess.
What?
By me asking.
There's nothing you can say that will offend me,
look,
I promise.
I think people ask questions about your relationship because I would say the vast majority, they don't think that it's normal or conducive to a flourishing long-term relationship.
And that's fine.
Especially a marriage. They think it's fundamentally humiliating to a man to not have sexual exclusivity with his wife.
And that's totally fine. But the way that the questions are phrased was, I'm just curious. But it's not a curiosity.
I didn't say that, but
sure, that's fine.
Said that.
It's not an actual curiosity.
I'm critical.
That's fine. Yeah, there's a normative loading of like, you're doing something that I don't approve of, and now I'm going to question you on it, which is fine. But like, if we want to get into that, then we can get into that.
Well, I mean,
rather than like oh, well, I'm just curious. Like, does it bother you that somebody else might like come on your wife? And I'm like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I don't know.
Let's back up a second.
Yeah,
You're kind of projecting the disapproval does exist, but the
well, I'm not projecting because these two at least have explicitly said it, right?
Yeah,
so it does exist.
It's not necessarily.
It's
It's not necessarily that the questions are rooted in disapproval. It's more just that like your guys' relationship dynamic is it's a taboo in society, so people are curious and they have questions, right?
Well, I think you're curious. Well, I don't know. I'm treating you as good faith that you're curious. But like these two at the very least, and by the way, there's nothing wrong with being disapproving, but these two questions are coming from like don't you realize that this is really bad? Is like that's like the angle of the question basically.
It's
which
not
is fine,
like understanding or curiosity.
Yeah.
It's like I'm just gonna bully you kind of for what you're doing in your
which
life.
Is fine.
Do you guys feel bullied by them?
I don't feel bullied. I love it.
Melina does a little bit.
No, it's just like negativity, not understanding.
Do you guys
want to
react
being
to the
curious
video
or
in
anything?
question?
It's just being
Yeah.
like
You want to watch it? We
really,
can
really
watch
fast.
it.
Yeah,